Hey everyone, I'm V. Jeffrey Epstein's dark legacy exposed. 900 pages of court documents, revealing shocking connections to some of the world's most powerful figures. Names like Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew are now tied to his global web of abuse and exploitation. These documents shed light on Epstein's twisted empire, but there's still so much more to uncover. In this video, we break down what these new revelations mean and what they could uncover next. Stay tuned, this story is far from over. In 1998, American billionaire Jeffrey Epstein purchased a small island in the Caribbean. The island was called Little St. James. Originally, it belonged to American venture capitalist Arch Cummin, who put it up for sale in 1997. Epstein bought it for $7.95 million. This island is part of the U.S. Virgin Islands, a place known for being a tax haven. Epstein's financial management company was also based on this island. After purchasing it, he renovated the property and began living there full-time. The island was equipped with numerous facilities and staffed with workers, including a helipad. However, the island did not have a runway, so regular planes couldn't land there. To reach the island, one would have to take a private plane to a larger neighboring island, and then transfer to a helicopter or boat to get to Little St. James. Epstein's private plane, called the Lolita Express, was used for these flights. When the Epstein scandal broke, the first public records came from the passenger logs of this private plane. Each trip to the island was documented, revealing the names of those who traveled with Epstein. Of course, if someone took their own private jet or helicopter, they wouldn't appear in the logs. Little St. James Island, which would later become known as Epstein's private island, was used to organize illegal activities, including the trafficking of minors. Epstein was a mysterious figure in the U.S., a billionaire who didn't make appearances on the typical rich lists. Born in 1953 in a working-class Jewish family in Brooklyn, New York, Epstein was not born into wealth. Despite this, he was exceptionally intelligent and excelled in school. At 16, he skipped a grade, graduated high school, and was admitted to the prestigious private school, the Dalton School, in Manhattan. After studying there for 2 years, he was accepted into the world-renowned Quran Institute of Mathematical Sciences at New York University at the age of 18. Getting into this school was considered a remarkable achievement, but Epstein didn't manage to graduate. The exact reasons for his departure are unclear, but at 21, he dropped out of school. 3 months later, he landed a prestigious job at the Dalton School, teaching mathematics and physics. The school was known for catering to the children of wealthy and influential people. After 2 years of teaching, at 23, Epstein used his connections to get into investment banking, starting as a sales professional. In just 4 years, his exceptional performance saw him become a partner at the firm. But by 1981, at the age of 28, Epstein left the investment bank to start his own consulting firm. Though it was called a consulting company, its primary business was debt collection for wealthy clients who had made bad investments or fallen victim to scams. This allowed Epstein to build relationships with even more wealthy individuals, many from around the world, including Middle Eastern billionaires who had been swindled in the U.S. By 1987, after 6 years in the debt collection business, Epstein was hired by a businessman named Stephen Hoffenberg to work as a consultant. They collaborated on investment projects, but in 1993, it was discovered that Hoffenberg's company was a Ponzi scheme. They had been defrauding investors by creating fake projects to attract new money, which was used to pay off earlier investors. The scheme collapsed when the money ran out. Hoffenberg was sentenced to 20 years in prison for running what was once called the largest Ponzi scheme in the world. Remarkably, Epstein was never implicated in the fraud, as he had already left Hoffenberg's company before the scandal broke. Hoffenberg later claimed that Epstein helped set up the structure of the company, but then departed early on, and no evidence linked Epstein to the ongoing fraud. It is unclear how much Epstein made from this scheme, but some reports suggest it could have been hundreds of millions of dollars. After leaving Hoffenberg's company, Epstein started his own asset management firm, J. Epstein & Company, which managed the wealth of clients worth over $1 billion. The identities of these clients were kept secret, but one known client was American billionaire Leslie Wexner, owner of Victoria's Secret. Epstein and Wexner became very close, with Wexner even gifting Epstein a mansion in New York worth nearly $100 million. Later, Wexner entrusted Epstein with control over his company's management and finances, which was a sign of great trust. Since Victoria's Secret is a lingerie brand, Epstein was involved in the selection of its models and attended its events. In 1996, Epstein moved his company's headquarters to the Virgin Islands to set up a tax avoidance structure. In 1998, he bought Little St. James Island, where he would live from then on. This marks the point where Epstein's life took a darker turn. After purchasing the island, Epstein repeatedly invited global elites and celebrities to visit his property. However, it was later revealed that the island primarily served as a venue for Epstein to coerce minors into providing sexual services and engage in acts of sexual abuse. While anyone who visited the island became a subject of suspicion, their presence alone did not constitute evidence of involvement in these crimes. Long before the Epstein scandal erupted publicly, his criminal activities had already drawn attention. In 2005, police in Palm Beach, Florida, an affluent coastal community where Epstein owned a mansion, neighboring figures like Donald Trump, received multiple reports from girls claiming they had been lured to a local mansion for sexual exploitation. Authorities launched a covert investigation, surveilling Epstein's residence and documenting a steady stream of underage girls entering the property. After a year-long investigation, police obtained a search warrant for Epstein's home. Inside, they discovered a trove of explicit photographs of underage girls, hidden cameras indicating recordings existed, and Amazon purchase records for books on sexual abuse. These findings suggested Epstein's personal interest in sadomasochism, later corroborated by allegations in the scandal. The investigation identified at least 36 victims, most under 16 years old, with the youngest being 14. These girls predominantly came from impoverished neighborhoods adjacent to Palm Beach's wealthier districts, highlighting stark economic divides in eastern Florida. Epstein's associates targeted these disadvantaged communities, recruiting vulnerable minors with promises of $200, $300 payments for massage services. Once inside Epstein's mansion, the girls were sexually assaulted. Fear and economic desperation silenced many victims, while some tragically became accomplices, recruiting other girls for financial incentives. By 2006, authorities arrested Epstein. Given the scale of crimes against minors, a life sentence seemed probable. Shockingly, prosecutors offered a plea deal. Epstein admitted to one count of soliciting prostitution from a 14-year-old, receiving an 18-month sentence with extraordinary privileges. He was granted a 12-hour daily work release, allowing him to leave jail, and spent nights in a private detention facility without cells or strict supervision. After serving just 13 months, he walked free. The lenient sentence sparked public outrage. Prosecutors faced scrutiny for refusing to disclose why such a deal was struck. Years later, it emerged that the lead prosecutor had been pressured to treat Epstein leniently due to his alleged ties to intelligence agencies, implying high-level interference to shield him from justice. The case faded without further accountability, leaving enduring questions about systemic corruption and privilege. After Epstein's release from prison, he became even more high-profile. He began actively associating with wealthy individuals, including Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump, among others. He frequently engaged in charity events, seemingly trying to reverse his tarnished public image. However, in July 6, 2019, Epstein was arrested again, this time on charges of trafficking and sexually exploiting underage girls. Prosecutors accused Epstein of running a large sex trafficking network over many years, involving dozens of minors. While awaiting trial, something truly unbelievable occurred. On August 10, 2019, 1 month after his arrest, Epstein was found dead in his prison cell. He had apparently hung himself with a bedsheet. After an autopsy, the medical examiner ruled it a suicide, but the cause of death raised widespread doubts due to numerous inconsistencies. Firstly, Epstein had previously attempted suicide but had been discovered, which led to him being placed on suicide watch. He was monitored to prevent another suicide attempt. However, on August 10th, his monitoring was suddenly lifted. Authorities claimed it was time for his surveillance to be relaxed, as they believed he no longer posed a suicide risk. Yet, just after this decision, Epstein allegedly took his own life. Moreover, when Epstein's body was discovered, the analysis of rigor mortis suggested he had been dead for over 2 hours. His cell was supposed to be checked every 30 minutes, but on that day, one guard was asleep, and the other was using their phone, neglecting their duties. This meant that Epstein had died during a period when no one was monitoring him. Another suspicious detail was that Epstein's cellmate was transferred the day before his death. He had originally shared the cell with someone, but after the transfer, Epstein was left alone, creating ideal conditions for his alleged suicide. This transfer was also against prison regulations. Perhaps the most alarming piece of evidence was the manner of Epstein's death. He was found hanging by a bedsheet, yet when one hangs themselves, the neck is typically bruised or marked only on the front. However, Epstein's neck showed marks on both the front and the back, which made it appear more like he had been strangled before being hung. Furthermore, there were multiple fractures in his neck, which is not typical of a hanging. All of these factors made the ruling of suicide highly suspicious. Despite these numerous inconsistencies, the medical examiner still concluded the death was a suicide. This conclusion was not surprising, given that Epstein was alone in his cell at the time. However, the most peculiar and bizarre aspect of this case was that the two surveillance cameras outside his cell, which were meant to capture any activity, were both mysteriously broken on the night of his death. As a result, no footage of the incident existed. If Epstein did indeed commit suicide, it would have been the perfect crime, seemingly an unlikely chain of events coming together to make it happen. Speaking of strange coincidences, this situation reminds me of a similar case we discussed in a previous episode involving Diddy. He is currently imprisoned in the same facility, which has raised concerns, including from Diddy himself, who fears that he could meet the same fate as Epstein. Typically, when a suspect dies, the case might be considered closed. However, the Epstein case did not end there. Organizing such a large sex trafficking operation is not something a single person can accomplish. Clearly, there were accomplices involved, individuals who helped recruit the girls, for example. Epstein was the primary suspect, but there were others who played critical roles in the crimes. One key accomplice who remained alive was Epstein's longtime girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Although Epstein never married, Maxwell was his long-term partner. Ghislaine was a British socialite, the daughter of Robert Maxwell, a famous British politician and media mogul who once owned several prominent newspapers, including the Daily Mirror. Robert Maxwell was known for his immense wealth and influence. He even named a luxurious yacht after his youngest and favorite daughter, calling it Lady Ghislaine. However, in November 1991, Robert Maxwell mysteriously fell overboard from this yacht and drowned. The official investigation ruled out foul play or suicide, citing an accidental death due to a sudden heart attack while at sea. Despite this conclusion, the timing of his death raised many questions, as he had been under investigation for embezzling company funds. Shortly after his death, the Maxwell family empire collapsed due to the exposure of financial misconduct. Following her father's death and the downfall of the Maxwell empire, Ghislaine Maxwell moved to the United States, where she eventually became involved with Epstein. Although she lost her financial status, her connections remained valuable. As a former member of the British elite, she was able to help Epstein network with the upper echelons of society, including the royal family. After Epstein's death, Maxwell went into hiding, but was eventually arrested in 2020. She was charged with assisting Epstein in the trafficking and sexual exploitation of minors. In late 2021, she pleaded guilty to several charges, and in June 2022, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison, where she is currently serving her sentence. Beyond Ghislaine Maxwell, another key figure in the criminal organization was Jean-Luc Brunel, a French modeling agency boss. Brunel was the head of the famous Karen model agency and was known for discovering prominent models, including actresses and supermodels like Sharon Stone and Christy Turlington. However, in 1999, Brunel was exposed by the BBC for his involvement in sex abuse and harassment of models, including allegations of drugging them and acting as a pimp. As a result, he was banned from the European modeling industry. After being blacklisted in Europe, Brunel fled to the US, where he sought refuge with Epstein. After Epstein's death, Brunel was arrested in 2020 on charges of raping minors and human trafficking. His case was more severe than Maxwell's, but before he could stand trial, he was found dead in his prison cell in France in a manner strikingly similar to Epstein's death. He had hung himself. This raises the question: if such events can occur in both US and French prisons, how widespread could this network have been? The similarities in the two deaths make it difficult to ignore the possibility of a larger, coordinated operation. Finally, let's briefly discuss Epstein's list. This list is available online now, and there are several versions of it, but the names on it are mostly the same. It includes prominent figures from various fields, many of whom are well known. However, as of now, only 2 individuals on the list have been confirmed guilty. One is Epstein's girlfriend, Maxwell, and the other is his associate, Brunel. Investigations are still ongoing regarding whether others on the list were involved in Epstein's criminal activities. As for what happened on Epstein's island, what we currently know mostly involves minor sex trafficking, sexual abuse, and human trafficking. There are other, even more disturbing theories circulating online, but without concrete evidence, we cannot make any definitive statements. Discussing these unproven theories could lead to the video being taken down. So for now, we must wait for the case to progress further. Trump also appears on Epstein's list. He admitted to knowing Epstein in the past, but claims he had a falling out with him because he didn't think highly of him. Trump insists he had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes. To date, no direct evidence linking Trump to Epstein's criminal activities has been presented, including during Maxwell's trial. Trump has also stated he has no interest in underage girls, preferring adult women. Therefore, his involvement in this case seems minimal at this point. According to ongoing investigations, a key figure with close ties to Epstein is former U.S. President Bill Clinton. Clinton has denied all criminal allegations, but the fact that he visited Epstein's island numerous times makes it difficult to believe he didn't know what was happening there. As a result, Clinton is in a problematic position. Besides these two U.S. presidents, several other political figures, including former U.S. presidents and vice presidents, also appear on the list, but no direct connection to any criminal activities on the island has been confirmed. Notably, Stephen Hawking's name also appears, though the reason for his visits remains unclear. The case is still under review, and related court documents continue to be released. For example, records from Maxwell's legal proceedings between 2015 and 2017 have been made public, and they mention many names on Epstein's list. However, no new names have surfaced so far. If the U.S. courts release more documents in the future, we may learn more details, especially regarding one major part that has not been addressed so far: the video footage. Epstein reportedly installed hidden cameras in every room of his house, allegedly to use the footage as leverage to control powerful people. The whereabouts of these tapes remain a mystery. If they were to be released, they could provide explosive evidence. I suspect Epstein's death might be tied to this, as even if he was captured, his statements alone would not have been enough without concrete evidence. It's possible he had something on people, which could explain why he allegedly took his own life. The fate of the tapes is still unknown, and so the case may one day see a major breakthrough. If any significant developments occur, we will update you with another video. That's all for today, and we'll see you next time.